I think in your life there are a ton of topics and events that happen in your life that people don't like to talk about, right? A lot of people specifically don't like to talk about the cost that comes with waking up. And I don't mean getting out of bed in the morning or waking up from a nap, but the awareness that comes with waking up, right? Waking up with growth and purpose, clarity, the person that you're becoming. People kind of romanticize that stuff. I mean, you see all of the motivational stuff on the internet, but nobody talks enough about what happens when you actually start seeing your life through a clear lens. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. I think a lot of people think that awareness is an immediate, peaceful feeling. But sometimes it first feels like a weight, right? People think waking up immediately to their life feels empowering, like they've figured out the key to everything and they're going to be able to, achieve all of the things that they've envisioned for themselves. Right? That clarity that you find, the clarity of figuring out maybe who you are or figuring out that missing piece that you've been so desiring, that is usually sold as something that's super clean and packaged perfectly. But actual clarity feels super uncomfortable. It feels like this sobering feeling. Right? If you have glasses, you can imagine this, but imagine you have bad eyesight and you finally put on prescription glasses for the first time. It can feel a little bit uncomfortable, like, whoa. Sometimes it's even painful. And once you see those patterns clearly, okay, you cannot go back to not seeing them. It's like seeing an optical illusion, or, you play, I don't know, Where's Waldo, and you find him. And once you see that, you can't go back to not seeing it. Okay, so that loss of innocence comes with that deeper self-awareness that you develop, right? And so before, confusion that you had around any given topic in your life, that protected you. Before, that the vagueness of your life protected you. Before, you could drift. You could not have a direction or not fully confront what was happening. When you wake up and you have awareness, that removes that protection. It removes that shield from all of that. And now you're seeing clearly. Okay, and I've been feeling that in my own life lately. I've felt it before, but I've been waking up to the fact that I've been trying to force a lane that doesn't fully fit me. I've also been realizing that some of what I've been chasing hasn't just been purpose. Some of it has been fear. And so, me personally, I was forcing a path partly because of fear of not succeeding, and not just because it was truly mine. See, for me, I'll explain personally. I was trying to force a specific lane because I envied the kind of success that came with it, the type of success attached to it, right? How that would make me feel, how that I think others would perceive me, right? The materialistic things that came with it, the status that came with it, the progression in my own life that I would feel from doing that. Not necessarily because it was deeply aligned with who I was and my purpose and my passion and what I truly wanted for me. And that fear of succeeding made me grip harder to something that didn't fully fit me. It wasn't me, and deep down I knew that. I could feel the resistance. But I have ambition, I have drive, and I have discipline. But you see, under ambition, sometimes ambition is clean. Okay, sometimes ambition is perfectly rooted in the correct places, but sometimes ambition is mixed with fear. And that's true for a lot of people. Okay, they might have a fear of being behind, fear of not becoming someone, fear of failing to become somebody that you knew you could be, right? Not fulfilling your potential. Maybe it's not feeling a certain way, feeling like a loser. And if you don't, then you feel bad about yourself, right? So sometimes there's that fear under the ambition that fuels you, right? It's a negative motivator. And me personally, I've gone through a lot of delayed gratification, right? The reward in my eyes, my success has been delayed so long that my brain wants easier prizes now. Okay, because that material proof, that that direct reflection of success hasn't shown up yet. So my mind starts reaching towards quick stimulation, or easier paths, things that are easier, because that's what we innately do. And it's not because I didn't care or that I didn't want it, but it's because my brain is tired of waiting without visible return. Okay? Me personally, I don't just want success anymore. Of course, that's a part of it. Of course, that's just, a sliver of the end goal. I want direction. Okay? I want meaning. I want my life to feel like it points somewhere. Okay? I want work, relationships, friendships, my environment to support that purpose rather than to dilute it. Okay? And so you sometimes you do outgrow your environment or your relationships or your work. Not everyone in your life is bad, but some people don't deepen your life. Some people distract it. Some people flatten it. Some people pull you away from what matters. Some people pull you away from the things that you know you should be doing. Some people try to pull you back into bad habits, force you back into bad habits, force you back into bad mindsets, or put you around environments that's going to subconsciously change you. And once you see purpose more clearly, the people that are misaligned with you feel heavier. They have a deeper effect on you. And once I started seeing that clearly, things didn't get easier. They actually got harder. Okay? And you might be asking, well, what became harder? Because you feel like once you get clarity, everything's clear, that should be easier. When it's confusion, it's hard, right? But when it's clear, it should feel easy. It should feel everything's straightforward, right? But I think that's the part that nobody prepares you for. You think that seeing everything clearly is going to make everything easier, but a lot of the time it makes things heavier first. And that's because once you become aware of your patterns, once you become aware of your mind, your discipline, your habits, the way that your mind focuses, um, and your goals, your purpose, right? The real cost of your goals, you'll lose the ease that came from the naiveness or the naivety. Okay, so when you're innocent, and I mean that when you don't understand the awareness or you don't have that depth, when your goals and your achievements or what success means to you are still vague, there's kind of like an innocence to them, right? You don't understand the work that it takes to get to them. You don't understand all the little details that go into it. You don't understand all of the negatives and the positives, the nuances, all of that, right? You can dream big because you don't fully understand the weight of your goals or the weight that it carries and how it applies to you, right? You're protected by the fact of not fully knowing what it takes, and not just what it takes for you, because that's different. You see what it takes for other people. You hear other people's stories, right? You might have an idol that has achieved exactly what you've achieved, and you might think, oh, I just have to do, X, Y, Z. And then you become aware and you see the depth of the goal and you apply it to yourself and you realize, wow, I might have more work than I'm cut out for, or I might have more work than I realized. And so that naiveness, that innocence has a strange comfort. And it's a comfort that you won't realize when you have it. Only when you lose it will you then realize it. Okay? Because when you don't fully understand the process, the idea still inspires you. Think about like going to the moon. Okay? You don't understand all of the nuances, the details, the little things, the hard parts of going to the moon. You might understand that it's a hard, task at hand, but you don't fully embody that, or you don't fully understand the weight of that yet, right? You can dream big because you don't fully understand the weight, and that inspires you. But once you do understand the process of what it takes, that romance fades, that inspiration fades, and reality begins. And you might still be striving for the goal, right? It may not lose its magic on you of achieving it, but now it's not, you're not fantasizing about it. It's in reality now. And that reality is heavier now because you see the actual daily cost. Because everything seems so perfect. I mean, you look at influencers' lives, you look at people who are famous, people, professional athletes, and you see the flashy lifestyles, the cars, the material success, and you love that. I mean, that gets you motivated, that gets you pumped up. That's where that inspiration, fantasizing comes about, and then you get into it and the reality begins, and now that's heavier, right? Me personally, I became more aware of my own mind. Okay, and you might be like, what does that even mean? I became more aware of my attention span, right? My pull towards distraction, my tendency to go toward what feels easier when the reward is far away or when results aren't popping up. I became more aware of my inconsistency, my misalignment, my avoidance, my thought patterns, all of that. I became aware of that tenfold, and I could point it out not after the fact, but during it. And now work got heavier because now it's measurable. Okay, before work was kind of like abstract to me. Um, the results weren't clear, right? Like, let's say you're in school, you go to school, you might miss a couple days, you turn in your assignments, and you're just like doing your thing. That's that innocence. You're just going through the motions, right? Now, once you have that awareness, you can actually see what kind of work that you're putting in. And you can compare your output to your goals, and you can see when your actions do not match your standards. And so that the misaction that you have becomes visible, not just your action. In your normal day, or at least I can speak for myself, before I became aware, my action was visible. I'd be like, you know what, today I did a good thing, right? It was just plus or neutral, right? I either did a good thing today, I moved forward, I did well, or if I didn't, then it would just be like, okay, another normal day, right? That was my baseline. But then when you have that awareness, when you gain that awareness, when that innocence gets taken away, when that depth becomes visible for you, misaction also becomes visible. Not just what you do, but what you don't do. Okay, that inaction stops feeling neutral and it starts feeling like a gap between who you are and who you say you want to be. And maybe the heaviest part of all is that once you wake up, your excuses stop sounding honest or reasonable. Okay? At some point, waking up means running out of excuses that still work on you. Okay? The real pain of awareness is that your old explanations stop protecting you. Okay? When you wake up, when you finally wake up and you explore your depth and that cover gets taken, the excuse that I'm doing enough, or that you just need more time, or other people are affecting you, or I'm just trying to still figure it out, those no longer work. Because waking up strips away the stories that you use to protect your ego, which avoids responsibility. Okay, underneath all of it, yes, you are still figuring things out, but you also know more than you used to. Okay, you know the general path. You know when you're avoiding things. You know what you need to do. You know when you're wasting time. You know when you're not fully showing up. And so that makes self-deception harder. Right? You can still ignore yourself for a while, but it doesn't feel clean anymore and it doesn't feel good anymore. It doesn't feel innocent anymore because now there's friction when you betray your own standards. And at this point, nobody else can really be blamed anymore. And this doesn't mean that life is fair. It doesn't mean that outside factors don't matter at all. Like they're just completely obsolete. But at a certain point, your lane becomes yours, right? Your discipline, your focus, your execution, your time management, your responsibility, your purpose, the actions that you take every day, all of that becomes yours. And that is heavy because it now means that the outcome is more on you than you may have wanted to admit. And that potential, right? That potential, that responsibility becomes heavier. It becomes a burden once you know that you have it. Because now failure doesn't feel like, oh, confusion, oh, I failed, whatever. It feels way heavier than that, way like more neglectful, like self-betrayal. It feels like being the reason you did not become what you could have become. And once you start seeing this clearly, it changes the way that you see everything around you too. All right? I mean, we can talk about, not just success, but into like relationships or people or your whole environment. This is where like, when you wake up, it just doesn't change how you see yourself. It changes how you see other people too. Right? The deeper that you meet yourself, the harder it becomes to ignore what has no depth around you. Because people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. Right? So that means that the more self-aware that you become, the more that you notice when others are disconnected from themselves. You can start hearing the shallowness more clearly. You can feel when something has no purpose, or you can see that naiveness, that innocence. You can notice when people are operating from an egotistical, a distraction, an avoidance, or an unconscious state, right? And this ultimately can feel lonely, and it's not because you've gained this awareness that you think that you're better than people. No, not at all. But because your standards for what feels real begin to change. Certain conversations or environments stop feeding you. Certain dynamics, right, socially or, whatever it is, they stop feeling aligned with you. Certain relationships with other people start feeling like they pull you away from the life that you're trying to build. And that just creates more resistance. Okay, everything starts needing direction. Your work, your relationships, your friendships, the habits that you have, your time, your environment. Once you wake up, random living and just going on about your day starts feeling painful. Okay, because awareness creates separation by nature. Because now you're seeing something clearly. You can't see something when you're in it. It creates separation, sometimes from old patterns, sometimes from old people. And I don't mean age-wise. Sometimes from old versions of yourself. Because growth can feel isolating. And it's not because you're doing something wrong, but because clarity rearranges them. And maybe that's what people are really afraid of when they say that they want to wake up. All right, I don't think people are just afraid of truth. I think they're afraid of what truth is going to take from them. Right? People say that they want clarity, but a lot of them are terrified of what clarity would require. And the whole idea is that I think people fear waking up because it forces them to confront ego, insecurity, responsibility, fear, wasted time, and the possibility that they can no longer hide. And so, people might have a fear of confronting an insecurity. They may discover that they've been protecting an insecurity. They may discover that a lot of their behavior has been built around fear. Or they may see that they've been hiding from something real. Right? Maybe they have a fear of losing excuses. Excuses are comforting. They help you get out of situations. They protect you. Confusion is comforting, right? You don't have that responsibility. Delay is comforting. You don't have the responsibility to do something. Vague ambition is comforting. But waking up removes those cushions, right? What about responsibility? Just like I said, once you know, you are responsible in a different way. You can't you cannot unknow what you know, okay? That creates responsibility. And that also creates pressure, right? A lot of people might have a fear of wasted years. They may realize how much time they've actually lost, how many years they've spent drifting, how much of life that they gave to the distractions, the avoidance, the ego, the comfort, the bad habits, whatever it is. They might have a fear of discovering that they have to change because that clarity demands movement. You don't just get to sit there and observe forever. You don't just get to sit there in comfort forever. Eventually, awareness and the clarity that comes with it asks something of you. But even with all of that, I still think that waking up is worth it. Okay, waking up, I'll be honest, has made my life heavier in a lot of ways. Right? I don't think that waking up makes life easier at first. I think it makes it more honest. Okay, but awareness is heavy. But it's still better than living numb or unconscious or asleep, literally asleep inside your own life. Okay, life does get heavier. You have more responsibility. You can't deny things. You have more self-confrontation. Um, your awareness of time gets increased tenfold. The misalignment of you and the things in your life, the people in your life, your direction, your environment, everything, you become more aware of that misalignment, right? Life gets heavier, but it also gets more real. You stop drifting, doing random things just for the shits of it. You stop living blindly. You stop confusing motion for meaning, and most importantly, you stop hiding from yourself. What I like to say, it's better a heavy truth than a comfortable illusion. Okay, the pain of awareness is still cleaner than the numbness of self deception. Okay, it's better to feel the weight of reality than to spend your life asleep with excuses or in a trance. Okay, so what I want you to take away from this, if you taken anything away from what I said, is that waking up costs you comfort. Okay, it costs you the confusion, it costs you the illusions. Sometimes it costs you people or habits that you like or identities that you really resonate. But maybe, just maybe, that cost is still worth paying if it means that you finally live a life that's actually yours, that you align with, that you actually feel fulfilled chasing, that you don't wake up every day and just go about it like a robot. And that's the cost of waking up. Life doesn't just get clearer, it gets heavier. But maybe heaviness is the price of finally living honestly. Maybe it's better to carry that weight than to spend your whole life asleep inside yourself. So, thank you for listening to this episode. This was episode 22. This one was a really impactful episode. I really I resonate a lot with this. I think I've had a lot of development with this topic, and so I promise you, if anything, this topic, just apply it in your own life. And once you can bring that awareness to the surface, once you can bring that depth to yourself, and you can see your life clearly in all aspects, it might get harder, but it'll get better. Okay, you'll feel more aligned. You'll feel better. So thank you for listening. If you haven't followed the podcast on whatever platform you're on, follow it. We release episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for those. If you haven't followed me on my socials, follow me at the Dylan Phipps on Instagram and TikTok. We'll be posting more this month. Actually, I'm getting set up to start again. So yeah, we'll be posting on TikTok here soon. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week for episode 23.